Hello and good afternoon. So today's tutorial is for the lower back and the hips. You'll need a chair, preferably a chair that is level with the earth and that does not have rollers on it. We'll begin seated for seated cat and cow. I'll sit sideways so that you can see the tutorial more clearly. I ask you to sit up at the front edge of the chair so that you're nice and relaxed, you feel the hips are settled, and the feet are comfortably on the floor. A stool is also an excellent alternative here. With cat and cow, we're lubricating the spine. So we lean forward as we inhale, draw the heart forward and up. Notice the arch in the back, the chin slightly lifts. And then round and reverse as you exhale. Pull the navel to the spine and lean into the hammock of the spine. Tuck the chin to the chest. Inhale, draw the heart forward and up. And exhale to round and reverse. Just begin that process of linking the breath and the movement in the body. Things to consider: this cat-cow can be done on your hands and your knees on the floor. It also can be done in this seated position. And it's an excellent way to lubricate the spine and to wake up all of the supportive tissue and muscles along the spine. And it's the perfect morning exercise or pre-workout exercise. Take a few more rounds here and inhale forward and up. And then an exhale to round and reverse. The tops of the shoulders drop out of the ears. Good. Let's round and reverse and then hold. I'm gently pressing the hands into the thighs. I'm pulling the navel towards the spine. I'm recruiting the back body breathing. So as I inhale, I'm trying to spread the shoulder blades wider. I'm trying to spread the ribs wider. Take about 2 more breaths in this shape. And then on your next exhale, we'll shift into cat pose. You feel the tail feathers lift. For me, the weight is shifted a little bit into the hamstrings, so the tail feathers are wide. A nice arch in the spine and some freedom across the heart and the neck. Take 2 more breaths here. And then come back to neutral. And we'll stir the pot now. So the sits bones stay nice and settled on your chair. Or if you're on the floor, you can crisscross the legs here. Think about the length of the spine being consistent. The head is drawing out of the heart is drawing out of the hips, and you feel just a little bit of weight distribution shift from sits bone to sits bone as you work in this fashion, known as a Sufi roll in the yoga compendium. Continue to smooth out the breath here. This helps to lubricate the hips. And again, we're just creating a little bit of heat in the body so that the muscles in the low back and in the hips will start to relax. The jawbone is soft, the tongue is soft, and then go in the opposite direction. If you are able, you're breathing in and out of the nostrils, slow and steady. Good. One more rotation. And then slowly come to neutral. Feel the length of the spine. And then just sort of wiggle in the booty here. So you wiggle, 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 wiggle. The chair will move. There's just enough abdominal support, drawing the navel to the spine. And so I'm just trying to let everything wiggle and shift from side to side. And this is really an intuitive style movement. You'll notice, like, oh, if it's hard for me to wiggle in the hips, then that means I'm constricting in the low back muscles, right? I'm constricting in the hips. Take a few more breaths here. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. For 5, 4, 3, 2. Full breath. Inhale and sigh it out. Making your way to stand, you'll take your hands into fists and just tap out the hips. So I'm south of the belt loops, and I'm really in more of the soft tissue and the flesh here on the outsides of the hips. So I feel the booty, all the glute muscles are nice and soft and they're jiggling and wiggling around. A lot of low back pain and hip pain is from compression, from being seated, and also stagnation or gripping in the muscles. So we're really focusing on creating some wiggle jiggle movements here in the hips and in the glutes. Good. And now the thumbs face the body and actually get the glutes themselves and really pop the muscles. If you prefer hands, you can do hands, and really just pop all the muscles in the glutes. The job of the glutes is actually to support the low back. So any sort of glute release, trigger point release that you can do here will help to soften the muscle tissues, wake up their intelligence so that they can do that job of supporting the low back. We've got about 15 seconds left here. Keep breathing in and breathing out. Good. And then just release and take a breath in and take a breath out. All right, standing wind relieving pose. You could also do this laying on your back if you have the room. It's essentially pulling one knee into the heart. It is actually considered the simplest of hamstring stretches. So you could put your foot on the chair if you needed to, or up on a rung. If you're able to just stand and balance, you can interlace the fingers around the shin bone, or do one hand on the chair. And again, you could do this on the floor. This is something that I do every morning when I wake up. I pull one knee into my heart. This helps to release the low back. If you're standing, you're just getting the added balance challenge element here. Doesn't require any fancy yoga clothes. Keep breathing, nice inhale and nice exhale, and then we'll release. And we'll take it to the other side. Again, you have the option to hold on to the chair, or if you're able to go hands-free, then that is also your option, hugging the opposite knee into the heart. Now in the standing balance, make sure you're not locking out in the balanced leg, and you really want to notice that there's a length in the spine. So my head hovers over the heart, and the heart hovers over the hips. Good. Once more. Good, and then we'll release. Good. Calf muscle stretch. So you'll use the base rung of your chair. If your chair does not have rungs, you can actually take your foot to the side of the chair here, and it's just a very simple calf stretch, right? We want to stretch the calves so that the hamstrings will release, and then it takes the pressure out of the hips and the low back. So any configuration here, the heels on the ground, the toes are elevated. You could use the baseboard of the wall, and then just a little bend in the knee here. So you feel the calf muscles stretch, keep breathing. You could literally shift the weight of your hips back in space, and you'll get a little bit of a hamstring stretch as well. And again, I'm using the back of the chair or even your desk here for support. In all postures, think about 10 breaths of time. The muscles are programmed to release or stretch and lengthen as we exhale. So you take your breath in, notice the tightness, exhale as you move a little more deeply into your stretch. Take your next inhale, just notice, and then exhale, you can move a little more deeply into the stretch. Good. And then we'll switch sides. We'll do the opposite foot. Really opening up in the calf muscles, a little bend in your knees so we're not locking out in the knee. Heels on the earth. Just enough abdominal support so the low back is happy. I think about drawing the jewel of the belly button in and up, right? And then again, if you want to add a little bit of movement and stretch into the hamstring, then you hinge at the hips, arms are on the back of the chair, keep smoothing out the breath here. All of these postures can be done in any order. So if you're just taking a 5-minute break in the middle of your workday, pick any of the chair poses and do them. Pick any of the standing poses and do them. Again, just think about 10 breaths minimum per posture. All right, good. Quad stretch. So it's the front of the quad. You'll bend at the knee and reach for your ankle or your foot. If that is not available to you, you can use a strap or any length of cloth. It could be your tie, it can be a sash, it can be a rope, and you'll roll it around or hook it around the ankle in order to be able to bend the knee and pull the knee towards the hips. So I'll demonstrate here with the strap. Some things to notice. If the knee is tender or there's any pain in the knee, 2 things to notice. Can you pull the knees in alignment with each other? And also, can you flex the foot? Whether you're using a strap or holding your ankle, there's a little push-pull action. I'm pushing the foot into the hand or the strap, and then I'm resisting that pull. And what you'll notice is the quad muscles wake up and the hip flexor muscles wake up. So we're searching for muscular activity in the hip pocket. This is the front side of the hip. Over time, with or without your strap, you'll be able to send the foot a little further away from the body. Breathing here, you get a little back bend element, and that's just an optional add-on. We've got about 3 more breaths on this side. Good, gently release this same leg. I want you to shift the weight into balance and then lift through the knee. And we're just taking the femur, the thigh bone, and we're trying to grease open the hip joint itself. And I'm using the wall or my desk or the chair for support. Good. And then you shake out that side, and we'll move to the opposite side. With or without your strap or a length of cloth, we bend at the knee and catch the ankle. Take your first few breaths here. If you get a Charlie horse, which is really common anytime we're dehydrated, if we lack potassium, or if the muscles themselves are just super tight. If that happens, then all right, think, have I had water recently? Might I have a mango or banana to supplement my potassium? And or that's a great indication I just need to stretch a little more. So find that push-pull as you're breathing. I'm pushing the foot down into the hand or the strap. I'm resisting by pulling the hand or the strap back into the foot. I'm flexing the foot to engage the muscles that support the knee. The knees are in alignment with each other, and then maybe eventually I can start to kick that leg behind me a bit, adding a little bit of a back bend. I've got abdominal support, and I'm slowly breathing in and breathing out. Good. And then we'll release, and same thing, shift the weight into your standing leg, and then bend the knee and circulate. Find some movement so you feel that the femur head, the thigh bone, is greasing open the hip socket. Take a few more breaths here. So these tutorials are just 30-minute tutorials, but you could double the length of time or do the whole sequence 2 times in a row, and you've got a full hour practice. Okay, still standing, warrior 1. Step your left foot forward and your right foot back. And it's just a comfortable length of a step. In the front legs, that's my left knee is bent. The knee is over the ankle. I'm rooting down through the heel so you feel that the back of the leg, the muscles are active and they're supporting the hips. The back foot, you've got 2 options. You can either pop up onto the toes, which is technically a runner's lunge, or you can drop that heel to the earth at any diagonal that makes your back knee and your hips happy. The hips are facing the chair here. So variation 1 is we're nice and tall and upright. The head hovers over the heart over the hips. There's just enough abdominal support that you feel that back hip pocket starts to stretch. That's your quad. Option is stay here, or we add a twist. Your right hand stays rooted and your left arm gently peels open. So we don't want the hips to move. The hips stay facing your chair and you're taking that twist out of the upper body. I'm rooting powerfully through the right heel as I'm reaching in opposition through the left fingertips. About 3 more breaths here. Head is neutral and comfortable. Jawbone and tongue is soft. And then we'll release and we'll switch sides. Warrior 1, right foot forward. Left foot is back. Right knee over ankle and then push through the heel so you feel like the back of the thigh and maybe even the glutes wake up, right? They're supporting the joints. Left foot, either you're up on your toes in a high lunge variation. That tends to be more comfortable for some bodies, and or option to release the heel at any diagonal that supports the joints. Now, as if there's 2 light beams coming out of the hips, we're facing the chair, nice and tall and breathing. This might be plenty of work, feeling that stretch in the back hip pocket and the quad. Option is stay here or add the twist. Left hand stays on the chair and right side body peels open now. So I feel this long line of energy from the heart through the fingertips. I'm engaging the abdominals to support the spine. I'm rooting through both feet. 3 more breaths of time here. Good, and then we'll release. Take all the time you need to find a little aloha in the body. I think about sliding from hip to hip, creating some figure 8 sensation. You can also bend your knees and just kind of wiggle out the booty. It's all in service of making sure there's not restriction here. Okay, warrior 2. There's 2 variations to do this. Variation 1 is seated on your chair, and variation 2 is standing. I'll show you the standing shape so that it makes sense in either variation. Just like warrior 1, knee is over ankle, back heel is rooted, but instead of the hips facing forward to the dominant leg, we let the hips be free and open. So you could translate this onto your chair as well, and I'll demonstrate that. You can even shift the chair kind of at a diagonal, just depends on the shape of your seat. And again, we're looking for this long line of energy, right knee over ankle, thigh bone is parallel with the earth, and then that back leg, I'm pushing off, and the diagonal of the foot is determined by your joints. I have to bend in the knee a little bit, just the way that my hips are made, that's going to make this more comfortable. But you're thinking about broadening across the front line of the thighs. Take your right hand to the inside of the thigh, palm faces in, and just press the back of the hand into the thigh a bit, and you'll feel some more muscular activity up the line of the inner thigh and the groin muscles. Now, if the hips are super tight, you might have to bend this back knee a lot, and that's perfectly fine. Okay? Full breaths in and full breaths out. We start in this variation, warrior 2. And then left hand travels down the back leg, and the right arm sweeps up and overhead for reverse warrior. If you were in my side body opening class, this will feel familiar, creating as much space as you can from the hips to the armpits. I'll demonstrate this standing as well. Legs are open, pelvis is broad, rooting down through the feet, And then again, almost no weight in that left hand on the back leg. Right arm sweeps up and overhead. About 3 more breaths here. And then you'll release and adjust. We'll set up on the other side. If you need to adjust the shape of your chair, go for it. Again, I'll demonstrate standing, variation 1. Left knee is over the ankle. Right foot is at a diagonal that supports the joints. And really look at that back foot. Notice, am I someone that tends to push all the weight into the pinky toe side of the foot? If so, start to root down more evenly through both the big toe mound, the pinky toe mound, the toes, and the heel of the foot. Really rooting through all 4 corners of the feet. Option to be here, as we said, and or you can be seated on the chair at any diagonal for support. I actually find it a little more difficult in the chair because I just teach everything upright. So if it feels a little awkward, that's normal. Okay, left hand. Back of the hand presses on the inner thigh, not the knee joint, but the inner thigh. So really start to feel that encouragement of spaciousness across the front wall of the pelvis. Take a few more breaths here. Right? If you're tight, you'll notice you're tipping your weight over into one sits bone. Very common. Even if you have to bend this back knee a little bit, can my sits bones be nice and grounded into my chair? Couple more breaths, in and out. And then reverse warrior. Right hand gently taps the back leg, left arm reaches up at a diagonal, creating as much lift and length out of that hip pocket. I'll demonstrate standing as well. Same shape in the legs, almost no weight in the right hand, and then the left arm sweeps up and overhead. Just about 3 more breaths here. In and out. Good. And then release. Now, 2 options. You'll either sit back in your chair for seated cat-cow, or you'll move to the floor, which I'll demonstrate. It's the same shape if you're on hands and knees, right? We exaggerate the curvature of the spine, looking forward and up. Take a breath in. Tuck the chin, round and reverse as you breathe out. I love being on all 4s here because it gives you the leverage of the earth and we feel a much larger stretch across all of the connective tissue. This is something else I do first thing in the morning, right? I wake up, wind relieving pose, hugging one knee into the heart at a time. Sometimes I add a little twist practice and then I hop over onto all 4s in bed, do a little bit of cat-cow to wake up the spine before my feet hit the floor. You could also do this in bed just like you do seated variation. Stick with it, be in your cat-cow. If you're in seated variation, same idea, in bed, set the feet off the edge of the bed, even if they're hanging, and find this nice flexion and extension sensation along the spine. Couple more rounds. This incidentally also helps to massage the internal organs, which can help to activate a deeper relationship with your digestion. Okay, come to neutral, kind of wiggle it out and feel nice and sturdy and steady. Spinal twist. Hips stay nice and center. Just twist to the right. You can take your hands to the chair. Perhaps you can draw your arm up and over the back edge. If you're on a stool, you can even slide your arm across your low back. Pull the navel towards the spine powerfully. And use the breath now against that tension. Can I inhale and spread the ribs wide in all directions? And then exhale, can I soften the muscles to the bones? 3 more breaths here. And then we'll release and we'll counter twist. Slow and steady. Find the depth of twist that's available to you. Draw the navel towards the spine. And then use the breath against that pressure. Try to inhale and spread the ribs in all directions. And then exhale, soften muscles to bones. Right, low back pain and hip pain, two issues, tight muscles or compression. So getting up and out of your chair about every 25 minutes and just walking around can be useful. Making sure that you're seated at the front edge of the chair versus slouching into the back can be useful. And just attentive to a little bit of abdominal support. 3 more breaths. And then we'll release. Good. From here, you'll set yourself at the front edge of the chair if you haven't already. If you had a block can be useful. I'll show you prop-free as well. We're working on stabilizing the inner lines of the thighs, which wakes up the lowest abdominals, right? If the lowest abdominals, it's the abs that are connected internally at the spine, right? This is not about exterior shape. This is about internal stability and power. So we're trying to wake those guys up. Option, if you have a block, a yoga block, you'll set the block, or if you even had a small, let's say a soccer ball could also work, you'll squeeze the block with the thighs. And you'll notice very quickly all the muscles on the inner thigh and up the abdominal tract wake up. You can also do this with your fists. Take both your fists to touch and then slide your hands somewhere along the line of the thighs where you feel like, all right, my knees are in alignment with my hips, my feet are under the knees, and I'm gently squeezing at the fist, but I'm also resisting a little bit with the fist. And you feel searching for that sensation of the inner thighs, the groin wakes up, and you'll notice your pelvis will tip back into its natural shape. So we're stabilizing the corset muscles in order to support the spine. Just about 5 more breaths here. I actually do this work because I have a block. I sit at the front wall of my chair. I gently squeeze the block, and then I do my work in this fashion. And it's really helped to restore that confidence and wisdom of the corset muscles, which has been supporting my low back since I'm working at a seated home office versus a standing desk variation. You can do that for 1 minute, 2 minutes, or your whole day, okay? Final shape now is known as figure 4. So fullest expression, you bend at the ankle, bend at the knee, and place your ankle over your thigh. This is my right leg, and you can see I'm pretty tight in my right hip. It's just a function of the way the bones are put together. Meaning that you can see how high the right knee is. If I switch sides, you'll notice I'm much more open in my left hip and the knee lowers. This external rotation, much like we get in warrior poses, what we also get in our tree poses, this external rotation of the hip is a function of the shape of your bones and a function of how open the outer hip muscles are. So you take it as you will. You can start with the bottom leg lengthened. So I'm demonstrating with my left leg, and then I'm going to bend my right knee over the shin bone. That might be your shape. That's fine. Eventually, keep breathing wherever you are. If you're able to slide the ankle over the thigh, that would be your next step. And then thereafter, bending the bottom knee would be the final step in the shape. It's pretty important to flex the foot here because this engages the muscles around the knee. You never want to push on the knee. It's a precarious joint when it's in this shape. If you want to give yourself a little more oomph in the stretch, you gently press the hands to the inner thighs. One other option is you can hinge, there's where I feel it, hinge from the hip, and we feel a lot of feedback in the outer hip socket, hinge from the hips, and then feel those IT bands. There's 10 bands of musculature that support and run from the hip to the knee. So just take a few more breaths here. Drop the shoulders out of the ears, confidence in the navel, spaciousness in the breath. This is something I do at home. You can do it on your back. I do it home at the end of a long restaurant shift. Honestly, it just makes my hips feel so good. Or if I've taken a long road trip, when you hit the hotel at the end of the day, do figure 4 pose. It feels fantastic. Okay, let's do the opposite side now. So lengthen the right leg, cross left ankle over shin and flex the foot. Take a few breaths here. So like warrior 2 and tree pose, we start to see this relationship of external rotation. That might be where you start, and that's fine. Eventually, if you're able to slide the ankle up towards the knee, north of the knee, that would be your next step. And then if and when it becomes available, you'll bend at the knee and you let the foot hit the mat so that we feel this gorgeous shape in the body and we get that feedback in the outer hip. Keep breathing. Option to gently press on the inner thigh to encourage more external rotation, and or you forward fold, hinging from the hips. Oof, keep your sits bones rooted on the chair, and we've got about 5 more breaths here. Good, slow and steady. Sit up nice and upright. Give it all a little wiggle. You can sit fully back in the chair. Maintain the abdominal support. Find a nice tall spine. And then just close down the eyes and settle your attention down into the hips. Feel the weight and the density of the pelvic floor. Then bring your attention up the spine. A little confidence in the navel to support the low lumbar. And the breath helps to lift and support the heart. Notice what's vibrating. All right, friends, that'll do you. Namaste. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you soon.